Hola amigos, bien o no. Entonces, buenas noches, otra vez aquí desde Medellín. Hoy, día 28, day 28. Y un poco como ayer, a bit like yesterday. Entonces, tema de hoy. Para pensar con la diferencia con las palabras que nosotros necesita entender y las palabras que nosotros voy a utilizar. ¿Cuál es la diferencia y cómo esta diferencia puede ayudarnos en nuestros estudios? Listo. Okay, so here we are, day 28. A bit like yesterday. So I've been doing reading out loud again of the last. Today I managed 3 of the chapters from Bregstein's book. I've been going backwards a bit. I've discovered that from about chapter 23 onwards to where we are now, chapter 28, that's where I started finding it more difficult. Around about that point, I started finding the constructions, the sentences that she was demonstrating were getting a bit more difficult, really. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a very subtle change in that one. It's very similar to the other one. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go back and start reading these again, which I've been doing. I've been reading these aloud. I've been focusing on the useful sentences in those chapters. I've been trying to read them with different forms of expression, to really put expression into the voice, to really help try and reinforce the understanding of, what's this sentence about. So how would you really sound if you're expressing the emotion that's implicit in that sentence? And all those things are really helpful. I mean, that helps quite a lot. It's quite dramatic. I get to pace around my kitchen reading the book, which is good. But when I reflect on it, when I think back, how many of these sentences am I really going to use? How many of these sentences contain phrases that I would normally use in one of my practice conversations? Not a great many at the moment. So I think the difference I'm encountering now is a level between what we can call literary Spanish or literary English, the kind of words you get in books, novels, textbooks, complicated words, more, it's quite literary, different types of subtle expression, the kind of thing you might use more when you're writing rather than the kind of phrases you might use if you're just speaking. So for me at the moment, I imagine possibly also for you as well, I'm a bit more focused in useful words for me to say rather than words for me to write. So I'm not looking at the moment to use my Spanish particularly in a written sense. I'm not writing in Spanish. I just need to be able to speak to my neighbours, really. So I think at this level there is a bit of a difference. So this is about looking at the language we encounter, the language we come across, and certainly reading is the fastest way to see more of the language in all its forms, and this is very helpful because it helps us make up the time that we as adult learners have lost compared to when we were children learning our own language. Because we, after all, are trying to do in a matter of years what it took us probably 15 years to do in our own language. So the reading is very important, and the more of these type of let's say example sentences we see and practice, yes, this is going to help our fluency ultimately. It helps us see the way the language really sounds. It helps us start to spot patterns in the way the language is formed. But should we expect to find lots of these sentences to be ones we could immediately use in our day-to-day conversations? On my evidence of the last day or two, I think maybe not. But that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I think now it's just to recognise the difference between, let us say, more literary type language and the more ordinary, more day-to-day type language. So for the moment, as I think I said the other day, I'm going to focus more of my time on perfecting and practicing the 12 or so dialogues that I want to get correct to begin with, because I think these are going to be the type of phrase that are most useful to me here, most practical for me in my day-to-day. And then after that, it's to use whatever readings I'm coming across, whether it's like Bregstein's book or another books I might get from the library, to use those as a way to see how the language works generally. So that's like looking at the wider spectrum of vocabulary and all its uses, but to help accelerate my study in a way that's more useful immediately to me, to turn my focus more on the actual dialogues I'm going to use every day. Once I've got those perfected and I'm really happy with them, I can do them almost automatically without thinking too much, then I think it's going to be time to go back to widen the reading generally, and then start looking more critically at what I'm reading, even at hopefully quite an advanced level, but to look at it quite critically and go, okay, in this sentence I can see this is this type of expression or that type of expression, almost. So I'm starting to look to see if I can start translating some of the material I'm reading. But that's for a little bit more off in the future. So for the moment, I'm going to refocus on my special dialogues, and I'm going to cover some of those, I think, in the next couple of days, just to give you another look at how I'm doing those. I'm going to continue with Bregstein's book because I like the sentences. I like the use of these sentences. They're very helpful because you get to see a very wide range of possible expressions, and I'm finding, particularly when I'm using this as something to read out loud, because you get the sentence and you also get the translation straight away, that I think is quite useful. But I'm not going to worry too much if some of this grammar is still a bit confusing. I'm going to continue reading because I've only got about another 5 chapters I think to go before I reach the end of the book. So I'm going to continue with that, and then I'll have another review of it based on how I'm getting on with the other dialogues. So that's my look at it for the moment. So we're nearly at the end of the first month, if you think about it. I mean, this is day 28, so we're nearly a whole month in. So I hope your English practice is possibly going a bit better than mine for the Spanish. Pero déjame saber en los comentarios. Let me know in the comments how you're doing. I hope you're doing okay. And let's pick this up again tomorrow, and I'll give you another couple of examples of how I'm progressing with my dialogues. So for now, from Medellin, Feliz noche, good night, and see you tomorrow. Cheerio for now.